sector is very important, not only to the Gambia, but to global economic development, and in particular, poverty reduction everywhere else in the world. Tourism is key in our development aspirations, being the second biggest contributor to our GDP. And like the Permanent Secretary has also said, I think tourism is one of the only sectors that are registering very positive growth as recognized by our partners, particularly the World Bank and the IMF, and more importantly, the government of the Gambia.
Noting the success of the previous season, Tourism Minister Fatoumata Diop underlined the critical contribution of all players in the growing industry.
Our success story is visible. It's visible in the sense that we have seen the increase in our wallet size, each association here, be it the tour operators, be it the tour guides, be it the craft market vendors, everybody within the tourism sector. During the last winter season, we all recorded success stories in terms of our revenue, in terms of what we take to the bank. So this is because of the need that we saw in 2010. If you recall, when I just took office, we had a meeting in March. We had a stakeholders meeting for 3 days, whereby we asked ourselves a question: are we going to maintain the numbers that we have in terms of arrival, or are we going to double the arrivals and also double the revenue? And we all agreed that we are going to do that. We also asked the question after that, what are the things that will hinder that success story that we want? And we agreed on 4 areas. We said we need to create more awareness as number one. Number two, we need to look at our product, because the product we feel is stale, is the same old beds, is the same old bed sheets, is the same old cultural troops. We said we need to look at the products and improve on that.
Focused on making the Gambia a choice destination of world-class standards, the stakeholder meeting is expected to emerge the workable solutions to augment tourism, bringing gainful employment and greater opportunities for the citizenry. Abdullah Baji, Grts News.
The Gambia Armed Forces hereby informs the general public that it would conduct a one-day live firing introductory shooting exercise for recruits intake 33E at the Lance Corporal Bojang range in Brikama on Saturday 29 June 2013. The purpose of the exercise is to assess the recruits' weapon handling techniques, individual marksmanship, and introduce them to life in the field. The general public, especially residents living around the range in Brikama and its satellite villages, are cautioned to avoid the designated area on the above-mentioned date. In view of the above, your usual cooperation is highly solicited. The press release from the Gambia Armed Forces concludes. Regional authorities in the financial sector are meeting in Banjul with a view of looking at ways and means of creating a sustainable monetary program. Fatou Jassi reports.
Aims to validate the proposed common monetary policy utilizing former assessments as a basis to structure a viable monetary program in ECOWAS. The Director General of the Central Bank of the Gambia stated that harmonizing remains crucial with regards to the ECOWAS monetary policy. The Central Bank of the Gambia stated that harmonization remains crucial with regards to the ECOWAS monetary policy. He also stated the need to prevent spilling effects arising from uncoordinated policies.
The main objective of the workshop is to discuss a draft common monetary policy framework proposed by WAMA. It should be noted that harmonization remains critical under the ECOWAS Monetary Cooperation Program, as it could facilitate the convergence process. In addition, it would also help prevent the adverse spillover effects arising from unilateral or uncoordinated policy choices that may be pursued within the sub-region by some countries or certain countries.
Mohamed Ben Omanjai is the Director General of WAMA. Whilst highlighting the importance of a monetary policy in West Africa, Njai said that a common sub-regional central bank largely depends on an effective monetary plan.
The importance of harmonization of monetary policy frameworks in achieving the fundamental objectives of economic and monetary integration cannot be overemphasized. It goes without saying that the advent of the common central bank largely depends on the conduct of an effective monetary policy for the region. As such, it is essential for central banks involved in the process to adopt a common institutional and operational framework that will guide policy implementation and formulation as well as decision making.
In order to make a concrete proposal for improving the monetary framework, Jai said that the monetary agency conducted background studies aimed at achieving this.
The agency also conducted 2 studies, one on money demand function in ECOWAS and the other on monetary policy transmission mechanisms. The findings of these studies were used as basis for the finalization of the draft of the common monetary policy framework, which is being submitted to you for your consideration.
The central bank governor also stated the need for a single currency and a common monetary authority, citing its capacity to avoid emergent financial crises such as those which continue to affect Europe.
On a related development, as we reiterate our concerted effort to come up with a single currency and a common monetary authority for the region, we should be cautious to take on board all relevant stakeholders, especially the fiscal authorities, which would work towards the modalities for the adoption of a fiscal union. This measure would help us to avoid the unfavorable developments that have befallen Europe.
Given the global financial crisis, which has resulted in high inflation in the Gambia, this forum moving to advance a common currency and monetary policy for West Africa is perhaps one of the steps forward in resolving the region's economic woes. For Grts News, I am Fatou Jassi.
The National Environment Agency, NEA, informs the general public that the next Operation Clean the Nation, scheduled for the Saturday 29 June 2013, is postponed till Saturday 6 July 2013 due to the ongoing presidential Meet the People tour. In light of the above, all governors, CFOs, alcalos, ward councillors, and government institutions have been reminded that a strong presidential directive has been issued requiring all to organize and fully participate in the next national cleanup exercise within their respective areas of jurisdiction throughout the country. The general public, the release act, is also reminded that very restricted number of permits for movement of essential vehicles would be available upon application at the National Environment Agency. All individuals, institutions, and organizations in need of such permits should submit their requests to NEA latest Wednesday, 3rd July 2013. Applications received after this date will not be processed. The release concludes. We'll be back with news from outside the Gambia after this break. Welcome back. Meanwhile, United States President Barack Obama has used his visit to Africa to pay homage to the ailing South African former leader and icon Nelson Mandela. The U.S. president, who is on his second and last visit to the continent as president, spoke passionately about the man South Africans called Madiba and the infamous apartheid era that held sway in South Africa for several years. Details in the CNN report.
Personal connection to Nelson Mandela long before he ever met the man. He talked about when he was in college at Occidental College in California in the 80s that he was inspired by Nelson Mandela's anti-apartheid message. This is something that he's written about in his book, Dreams from My Father, where he talks about speaking publicly about this. And he said today, just a short time ago at this press conference here in Dakar, that he didn't imagine at at the time that Mandela would ever be released. And for him, he said that it showed promise and possibility in the world that that could happen, obviously with Mandela going on to lead the country of South Africa. He did say that he'll be going to South Africa still. He's here in Senegal now. The next stop on his 7-day trip is to be South Africa.